Welcome back. Let's go to the next story here on TNT, actually all over the place. An emergency ban on puberty blockers introduced by the Conservative government turns out to be lawful. That's what the High Court said. Campaign group Transactional and a young person who can't be named had challenged then Health Secretary Victoria Atkins's decision to impose banning orders on puberty blockers, which delay puberty by suppressing the natural production of various sex hormones. Well, Mrs. Justice Lang dismissed the challenges, which had argued that the ban on private prescriptions of the drugs to treat under 18s was unlawful. Well, here to discuss this and its implications is Director of the Family Education Trust, Peter Williams. Peter, thanks for joining us here on TNT. What's your initial reaction to the upholding of this ban?
Delight. Very, very pleased indeed that they have done this. This is absolutely appropriate. Puberty blockers are potentially extremely dangerous drugs. It's an unnatural act to delay or to completely obviate or avoid puberty. And so therefore, this is something which we should absolutely should be doing. Children are not able to assent to such quote unquote treatment to make sure that they cannot develop normally. So gender dysphoria is something which needs to be investigated. The underlying causes of gender dysphoria need to be investigated as to why a child doesn't identify with the sex that they genuinely are. That said, there is one problem with this, which is that clinical trials will still be able to go ahead. And we would say that that is fundamentally inappropriate. We're still going to be experimenting effectively on children with puberty blockers, a few of them, but nonetheless, we're going to be experimenting on children with puberty blockers, and that could have very adverse consequences on those children. That is not appropriate at all. It should not be allowed at all. So we think that this is fundamentally right, doesn't quite go far enough, but fundamentally is a good thing.
That means that some young people will still be exposed to potential unknown, or let's say unproven consequences of this. By unproven, because I do get my opinion, the sense that we're actually monkeying with people's lives without necessarily having a very mature understanding of it from a medical or a psychological perspective.
Precisely. Now, the danger is that these drugs will cause things like infertility, or they will harm people's development in all sorts of other physical ways, whether it be to their bones or to their heart. Now, a lot of this is untested. A lot of this is sort of, we don't know, but we do know that it is a unnatural act. We are supposed, as human beings, to develop normally through to adulthood. We are supposed to go through puberty. So when we have drugs like this, not doing that, but rather completely disrupting that process, we can expect that there would be negative consequences associated with it. So that is why we would say, no, this is not something to do. This is not a good idea. It's certainly not something that should be given to children. Again, children do not have the ability to totally, truly, autonomously make that kind of medical decision. And this is not something which is treating an illness. This is not something which is, these drugs would not be attacking some kind of malady. It would be attacking the normal process of human development on the basis that they have gender dysphoria. Now, it's the gender dysphoria itself which is the malady. It's that which needs to be treated. It's that which needs to be addressed. And that's what we should be going for. We should not be trying to address our normal human development as if it's an illness. That's the problem here.
Is there a possibility that these puberty blockers actually reinforce a physical outcome which in itself is only representative or symptomatic of a different problem?
Precisely so. I think that's exactly the problem. And of course, remember that I would go even further than this personally. I personally believe that the very idea of giving even adults who present with gender dysphoria the ability to effectively engage in surgical mutilation of their own bodies is not something that medicine should be doing. The whole point of medicine is to do no harm. The whole point of medicine is to heal people of some kind of underlying problem. And there is no pathology about functioning body parts, the parts of us that are fertile, the parts of us that are ordinary elements of our humanity, whether male or female. Those are not things that are pathologies. The pathology is the inability to recognize or to reconcile oneself with one's own true nature as man or as woman. That's the thing that needs to be dealt with. And when it comes to children in particular, I mean, this is the thing that really gets me. It's that when it comes to children in particular who cannot possibly meaningfully consent to something which is going to be that damaging and that mutilating to them, then there is no question that that is not within the purview of real, authentic human medicine. I don't think it's true of adults either. I don't think we should be allowing that in any case. I think that everyone who has gender dysphoria should be helped in the way that they need to be helped, treated with respect, treated with love and compassion, but absolutely not allowed to do something which is going to mutilate their own bodies and lead to completely long-lasting consequences that will never be reversible. That is certainly true, however, of children. So this is a fundamentally right decision. It doesn't go far enough. It needs to be rethought, I think, across the board, and we need to have more consistency when it comes to the way that we treat people with gender dysphoria.
Two quick, short questions. One is, at what age do you think it would be legitimate for an individual to make the decision, even if you think the decision might be unwise?
Well, this is the point. I mean, personally, this is my own personal view. I don't think there is an age in which that would happen. But if we were to do it, if we were to be done, then I would suppose that after 21 would be the time to do it, or possibly after 25. I say only at 25 because that's when the brain finishes developing completely. That's the point of total adulthood. And I think that would probably be the point when we would have the time to engage whatever medical intervention, psychological intervention we could engage in to make sure that someone who presented with gender dysphoria would get the help that they need. So if we are going to do that, and I don't think we should do it at all, but if we are, 25 seems the right age.
And finally, what's your prognosis about the attitude of the new Labour government? They have an absolute majority. They can do pretty much anything they want, but they would have to now presumably take complicated steps to overturn a court ruling. Will it make any difference? Will they try to reverse this High Court ruling, in your opinion?
It's very difficult to say. I'm encouraged by the actions of Wes Streeting. I'm encouraged by the rejection of the extreme trans agenda that was proposed within the House of Commons in the Prime Minister's questions the other day by a backbencher, by the Prime Minister. So I am likely optimistic that Sir Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting are going to go with proper public opinion on this, proper public common sense on this. But we shall see, is all I can say about that.
Thanks for your clarity. We'll definitely invite you back as this story develops. That's Peter Williams, Director of the Family Education Trust, who says it's a good thing that the ban on puberty blockers has been upheld.